So I'd like now to call Glenn Hammer, CEO of the Arizona Chamber of Commerce, to the stage. This is the largest business organization in Arizona.
Thank you, Bill, and Catherine, incredibly impressive what you've done. I believe at 13 I was getting a bar mitzvah, so congratulations. It's my great pleasure and privilege to introduce our next speaker, whose commitment to career pathways has been made abundantly clear during his tenure as governor of Arizona. As you will recall, last year he addressed this conference and made a very powerful case for career and technical education that helped galvanize the business and education community for action at the legislature. Governor Ducey was elected in 2014 on a platform of opportunity for all. A businessman himself, he understands that a strong economy is built with human capital, and that means multiple pathways, and that means a strong career and technical education platform. Upon taking office, the governor brought stakeholders of a very contentious lawsuit together to help frame a proposition that is going to be decided in 2 weeks from today. It's called Proposition 123, and it would inject $3.5 billion of new dollars into our education system without raising taxes. I know there's people from 20 states, so 19 states here are not in Arizona. But if you are in Arizona or you have friends or loved ones in Arizona, I urge you to vote yes on Proposition 123. And I'll just tell you, the Arizona Chamber and every chamber across the state supports this important effort to get new dollars into our education system. The governor understands that career pathways are strongest when employers lead to ensure that our talent pipelines reflect the changing needs of a dynamic economy. As a point of fact, during the Great Recession, I was probably my greatest surprise during my time at the Chamber is that we have about 120 board members representing every business type from every sector of the economy at every point, at every geographic point in the state of Arizona, and yet they still needed qualified workers. How could that be? Because there's a skills gap. And simply put, if we have strong career and technical education programs, we'll clear that skills gap and put more people to work. The governor, in addition to galvanizing the legislature to restore all of the career and technical education funding, did something else that's very important. He revitalized the Workforce Development Board, and he filled it with industry leaders across the state and appointed a co-chair, Tim Jeffries, who has been doing a great job of making sure that our education system is aligned with the needs of our workers. We're very lucky that Governor Ducey is at the helm of our state. Now, there's a state budget that is bursting right now, so I know that after I introduce the governor and he delivers his remarks, he's going to have to get to the state capitol to make sure that we put together the finishing touches on a budget. And I'll give here's a spoiler alert, that will be great for every strain of our education system. Without further ado, Governor Doug Ducey.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks very much, Bill and Glenn, for that generous introduction. It's great to be here again with you this morning. And Catherine, I just want to say how impressive and how proud I am that you are a product of Arizona public education. I want you to go off to college, get your degree, get some experience in the real world, and instead of politics, at least for a few years. But then we'd love to have you back. I mean, young leaders like you making a difference, there's just no substitute for that. I want to say it's great to see such a packed room here again for the Southwest Pathways Conference. It was great to be your speaker last year, and it's good to be back this year. I also want to recognize so many of our visitors from around the country. We've got folks here from Alaska, California, Idaho, Oklahoma, Texas, and Wyoming. We're glad to have you in the state of Arizona. Welcome. I'm impressed and incredibly grateful that you have an organization like the Global Pathways Institute based right here in Arizona, and specifically at Arizona State University, which was recently named the most innovative university in the country by U.S. News and World Report, outranking MIT and Stanford. So I want you to think about that, and I want to thank the visionary and outstanding leadership of Dr. Michael Crow at ASU. ASU is now the envy of the entire nation, and we're fortunate to have it right here in our state. And it's actually very fitting because in Arizona we are breaking the mold, leading on significant reforms to shake up business as usual down at the state capitol. You're seeing it in government, you're seeing it in how we look at everything, including education and economic development. It goes without saying that we have no shortage of issues to address in state government, but there's a lot of good news to be told and a lot of tremendous work that's being done by the people in this room, specifically in our K-12 program, by teachers, principals, students, and school leaders. And quite frankly, I don't think many of them are getting the credit that they deserve. Just last month, as reported in the Washington Post, the releasing of the 2016 of the country's top high schools, Arizona dominated the list. We had 3 of the top 10 public high schools in the nation. 2 Arizona schools even ranked among the best STEM programs in the country for their focus on science and technology and their dedication to preparing their students for a robust 21st century education. Student achievement is also on the rise in the state of Arizona. On the nation's report card, reported between 2013 and 2015, while nationally scores dropped, in Arizona we were among the top tier of states closing the achievement gap in the areas of reading and math. Now, we also value and have superb career and technical education programs, and we graduate students in this state at a rate of 99%. Over a dozen industries critical to the state of Arizona and our economic growth have workforce programs embedded in CTE. And our commitment to seeing these programs thrive and grow is stronger than ever. We're not only talking about it, we're also funding it. One of the first actions this year was passing a major $30 million investment in career and technical education, and our budget commits to ongoing funding. In higher education, Arizona also stands out. Our universities are overperforming and underappreciated. We have 2 of the largest research universities in the world in Arizona State University and a couple of hours down the road in University of Arizona. Arizona State, in addition to being named the most innovative university in the world, was recently recognized for producing more Fulbright scholars than any other school. It's also home to the Barrett Honors College, which the New York Times called the gold standard of the nation's honors college, basically the equivalent of an Ivy League education right here in the Valley and accessible to all. Not to be outdone, our community college system is the largest in the country and a national leader in graduation and transfer rates. And it's a given that our community colleges are Arizona's largest workforce trainers. We have a stake in making sure they remain on the leading edge. So there's a lot of good news to tell you about in Arizona, and I don't think people in or outside our state hear enough about it. Now, of course, there are areas in education that are crying out for improvement, and we're also addressing them head on. With our new budget investments and pending the crucial passage of Proposition 123, which Glenn Hammer talked about so eloquently 2 weeks from today, Arizona is poised to be among the leading states in new dollars invested in K-12 education over the coming years. We're also working on a plan that will make it easier and more affordable for our best public schools to expand and to be accessible to more Arizona students and families. This will allow them to spend more dollars in the classroom where it's needed most. And just as importantly, it will allow more students the opportunity at a quality education in the school of their family's choosing in a setting that will best prepare them for a future, whatever that future may be. One of the biggest crises in education today, and the reason this institute's work is so important, is because our country, and especially the Southwest region, is battling a widening skills gap, a disconnect between what employers need and what our schools are producing. Before I entered elective office in 2011, my experience was in business. I began my career at Procter & Gamble, got some invaluable experience, outstanding management training, and a few years later started an ice cream company called Cold Stone Creamery. Now you get a lot of undeserved popularity when you're selling ice cream. I can assure you that it all goes away when you balance a budget and run for elective office. But Cold Stone is important to remember that any big company, whether it's Snap-on Tools or Cold Stone Creamery, started small, as most companies do, with just a few people, a lot of hard work, big ideas, and a pretty good product. We took our small operation and built it to 1,440 stores, operating in all 50 states. I'm proud to say it operates in 31 countries around the world today. Now, Cold Stone wasn't successful by chance. It was successful because of the people that we employed and the people that we had in our franchise community. It's not rocket science to run a great business. You need to have the best possible people on your team. The same applies whether you're a CEO of a company, or you're the governor of a state, or you're the principal of a school. Employers know what they want and need to be successful, whether it's the right business environment or the top talent available. The problem for so many employers in today's environment, in this economy, is what they're looking for just isn't available. The skills gap in our country is not a new problem, but it is a growing problem. A national study shows that 96% of higher academic institutions believe that their students are prepared for life after school. 35% of students actually feel prepared. And only 11% of businesses believe today's graduates are equipped for the modern workforce. Employers are struggling to find qualified workers despite high unemployment rates, while prospective employees clearly are not aware of the skills that they need to land the career that they want. Arizona employers have a huge stake in our education. They want and demand the best for their workforce, and we have to make sure that our schools are providing that for them. Now, how do we do this? First, we have to recognize, as we all do, the important interdependent relationship between business and education. If those two entities are out of step, our students lose, our employers lose, and this gap will continue to widen. What we're seeing is that our employers are continuing to adapt and modernize to a 21st century pace, and they are faced with, and frankly held back by, a 20th century talent pool. Now, business isn't going to slow down and wait for our workforce to catch up, and nor should they have to. We need to give employers a seat at the table, or better yet, we need to put them in the driver's seat. They know better than anyone else the needs of their business. They know better than anyone, and American employers especially, how to innovate, operate, and adjust their workforce standards to keep up with an ever-changing economy. And ultimately, they have the greatest currency in this marketplace. They have the jobs. So in Arizona, we're proving that government can innovate too. We're modernizing our laws to allow entrepreneurs and enterprise to thrive in today's economy, and taking a fresh look at how we link our educational outcomes to our economic needs. We recently announced our plans for an Office of Economic Opportunity that will multiply Arizona's economic development efforts. This office will house a Geek Squad, of experts with access to real-time data that will allow us to respond easier and faster to the needs of job creators. You know, when a governor has a seat at the table with chief executives, business owners across the state, or those that are looking to relocate, you can make real-time adjustments in how you provide information to that decision maker and make improvements in your workforce. Let me give you an example. Let's say a business wants to come to Arizona, and they're looking for 100 qualified people who know how to write code, develop software, whatever the case may be. This Geek Squad will help find those people and make that connection. If they can't find them in Arizona, they'll bring them to Arizona. And now we know what the demand is. We can go to the education community and say, this is the demand that we have in this state. This is what our businesses are looking for. How can we tailor our workforce development strategy to make sure that's what we're producing? If there's one good thing to come from the skills crisis gap, it's that it has jolted us into the 21st century. It took a while, and it took a big push by business to talk about education that was actually relevant to the workforce, but Arizona's higher education is not waiting until students come to them. They're actually going to the students and asking them how they can steer them in the right direction towards the post-secondary path that will best serve their future. This is key, but still, we will not successfully solve this problem until we realize our pathway to success is not everyone's pathway to success. Whether it's Catherine or other young people, there are different ways that kids are want to go as they develop their career. I'll be the first one in this room to brag about our great universities, as I've done this morning. And I could go on and on about the great education available in the state of Arizona and the doors that it opened for me because of it. But that's what worked for me. That doesn't mean it's the right path, doesn't mean it's the only path, and it doesn't mean that it's a better path than someone else's path. But we get so focused on high school completion and not what comes after it, that it's been instilled and drilled into kids' heads that they need a college diploma to be successful. When we do that, we're closing the door on opportunities they didn't even know existed. We need to expand our focus beyond the four-year degree, especially here in Arizona, where most of our employment opportunities today require trade skills and technical training. I've spent a lot of time with students, parents, and teachers in classrooms across Arizona. When I visit with these kids, they may not know what they want to do, but they know they do want to do something. And they're looking for the adults in the room to help them figure it out, to open the doors for them. Rather than narrow the options for them, we need to counsel them early on about different career options that are available, and to show them that. We need to eliminate the stigma that a vocational career is somehow less than or less lucrative than a career requiring a four-year degree. To borrow a sentiment from Martin Luther King Jr., no work is insignificant. All labor that uplifts humanity has dignity and importance and should be undertaken with painstaking excellence. If we recognize that there are many pathways to success and no single path is more or less virtuous than another, we can begin to address the many problems facing education in Arizona and across the country. We can ensure our students are properly prepared to meet the needs of industry while addressing unemployment and underemployment among our graduates. We can ensure more young people are prepared for the jobs they want and were trained for. And we can ensure that all children, regardless of their zip code or circumstance, have a shot at an excellent education that leads to a fulfilling career. We're not talking about overnight fixes here. We're talking about breaking free from old workforce strategies and long-held perceptions and completely revitalizing our approach here in the state of Arizona. It will take some time and hard work and constant collaboration, but thanks to the Global Pathways Institute, Arizona is a step ahead and rising to the challenge. I feel extremely lucky to be governor of a state like Arizona, a state that I'm proud to call home. There are plenty of states where many of the people don't feel that way, people that are wanting out, wanting an opportunity, seeking changes, and looking for a better quality of life. We must be doing something right in our state. We had 100,000 new citizens move here last year, 52,000 new jobs created, and Forbes says we're the #1 state in the nation for future job growth. And despite our challenges, we have a lot to be proud of. I am, and I want to thank you for your efforts in making Arizona have the opportunity to improve itself, to demonstrate that we can make changes and improvements at the state level that make our state a better place to live, work, and raise a child. I want you to keep up the great work here at the Institute and have a great conference. Thanks for having me.